Hey there, Saki here from Saki Tech, and in today's video we are going to do a full comparison between the iPhone X versus the Samsung Galaxy S8 Plus. Now the S8 Plus was released in April 2017 while the iPhone X in November 2017, so there's an approximate 6-month gap between the two smartphones. Apple and Samsung dominate the smartphone market and are the biggest rivals. As such, people quickly ask questions such as, is the iPhone X better than the Galaxy S8 Plus? Or is the S8 Plus better than the iPhone X? And of course, the most popular request of all, just tell me which one is better. And that's exactly what I'm going to tell you in this video by doing a full side-by-side comparison of every aspect of these smartphones. So let's dive in and discover the winner. The first thing I want to look at is the build and design. So both the iPhone X and the S8 have similar build quality. Front and back, you will find glass on both smartphones with a metal band around the edges. This makes for a high-end build, therefore both smartphones feel like $1 million when you hold them in your hands. When you move on to the design is where things differ. They both have massive frontal displays and they both look gorgeous. S8 has a large and tall display that dominates the screen, leaving tiny bezels on the top and bottom, while the iPhone X strives to fill the entire front with a screen, almost succeeding except for that tiny notch on the top. You will observe that the bezels on the side of the S8 are actually thinner and it sports the signature dual curved edge design. All in all, I must say that the design is a subjective choice, but in my opinion, S8 still seems to pull ahead slightly. It seems more clean in overall presentation from the front. This slight lead could possibly have been avoided if the iPhone X had somehow eliminated that notch on the top, which does serve a major function known as the Face ID, which we will talk about later. Now both smartphones come with water resistance, but S8 once again gains a slight lead with a higher IP68 rating as opposed to the iPhone X's IP67 rating. Rest assured, both phones can easily handle a rainy day or an accidental drop into a puddle of water. Both smartphones also sport Bluetooth 5.0, which is the latest standard in Bluetooth, which is going to allow for better quality audio and also for longer Bluetooth range. That is good stuff. So the S8 retains the headphone jack, which may or may not matter to some people, but the iPhone X sports dual stereo speakers as a response. It doesn't have a headphone jack, but it does have two great sounding stereo speakers that take the win over the S8's single mono speaker. So to summarize, S8 certainly has a slight lead in this category. It does have a higher water resistance rating and a cleaner look overall, although the build is equally well done on both smartphones. In my opinion, stereo speakers have a higher importance than a headphone jack, so iPhone X also scores some points. Now let's move on to the processor, memory, and storage options. The iPhone X sports a powerful hexa-core A11 processor with 3 GB of RAM and can be acquired with 64 GB of storage for the base model or 256 GB of storage. The Galaxy S8 also sports a powerful processor, an octa-core Snapdragon 835 CPU or an Exynos 8895 variant in non-US markets with 4 GB of RAM. S8 will only be available in 64 GB storage option, but you can easily add up to 256 GB of extra storage using a micro SD card, a feature that the iPhone X lacks. So adding extra storage to the S8 is much cheaper. You can get a 128 GB micro SD card for around $50 and just load up on photos, videos, and any other media if desired. With the iPhone X, the jump from 64 GB to 256 GB will cost you $150 premium. Now if you move on to the benchmarks, it is immediately clear that the iPhone X has quite a bit of raw horsepower that blows expectations. Galaxy S8 is not a slow phone by any means, but iPhone's A11 Bionic chip has accomplished some incredible power output which will possibly translate into great looking, buttery smooth games and top-level augmented reality experience. In this category, the numbers can't be ignored and hence the win goes to the iPhone X in terms of processing power, which is the highlight. Let's talk about dimensions. The iPhone X measures 143.6 mm in height, 70.9 mm wide, and 7.7 mm thick. It weighs 174 grams. The Galaxy S8 Plus measures 159.5 mm in height, 73.4 mm wide, and 8.1 inches thick. It weighs 173 grams. So the S8 Plus is the slightly larger device in height, but they're almost equal in other respects. Not a big deal, but wanted to show it to you guys anyway. Because of its lower height, the iPhone X does have better reachability, but comes with a smaller screen, which brings me to a much more important category, the display. Let's talk about that. The iPhone X has a 5.8-inch Super AMOLED display with a resolution of 1125 by 2436 and 458 pixels per inches. The S8 Plus has a 6.2-inch Super AMOLED display with a resolution of 1440 by 2960 with 529 pixels per inches. Both smartphones support HDR. So basically, Apple has finally caught up to Samsung in display quality and features present. Both of these smartphones have fantastic displays that look stunning from every angle. They're not dull, they're very vibrant. The S8 is sharp and clear and is slightly more saturated. The iPhone X is also sharp and clear, but with less saturation, but better color accuracy. Overall, I cannot recommend one over the other as they both look very clean and crispy. I will consider this category a draw, top-notch, high-quality displays either way. Let's move on and talk about the software, a very important category. Let's start with the basics. The Galaxy S8 runs on the latest version of Android, while the iPhone X runs on the latest version of iOS. When comparing iOS and Android, it's hard not to overlook two big differences. Number one is customization. Android's system is a much more open-ended environment and allows for extensive customization via widgets, themes, and home screen tweaking. You can tweak an Android smartphone to fit your personal sense of style. iOS, on the other hand, when it comes to home screens, is just a static grid of app icons with very basic customization capabilities, such as being able to change your wallpaper. On the other hand, iOS does offer some polished apps and a greater gaming experience. Just about every game on the iPhone X, including graphically demanding games, will run at maximum performance with smooth and lag-free gameplay. This is a feat Galaxy S8 won't be able to match. Additionally, the Apple App Store does yield a larger number of quality apps as opposed to the Google Play Store. So if you care about apps and games and how well they perform, this is certainly something to pay very close attention to. Beyond those two differences, S8 is certainly more productive and feature-rich in the software department. It allows for split-screen multitasking, which means you can run two windows side by side at the same time. And of course, the larger display on the S8 certainly enhances the whole multitasking experience. The S8 also has the Edge functionality. You can swipe inwards from the edges of the display to bring up the Edge panels. These Edge panels can give you access to app shortcuts, weather widgets, tools such as a compass or a digital ruler, a calculator, and much more. On top of that, it is fully customizable. You can actually add or remove a bunch of panels based on your needs. As a counterattack, iPhone 8 does have 3D Touch, which is a pressure-sensitive screen that allows you to access quick actions and other gestures by pressing down on the screen with a certain amount of pressure. Not a bad feature, but rarely used. So it is clear from everything I mentioned that the Galaxy S8 is more customizable, feature-rich, and productive overall. However, where Apple wins is the app ecosystem, which is not a joke. Like I said, the Apple App Store will offer superb gaming experience and provide more polished and quality apps in comparison to the Google Play Store. For app-driven people, this might be important enough to stick with Apple. Now let's move on and talk about the camera. Let's get the numbers out of the way. The S8 sports a 12 megapixel rear-facing camera with an aperture of f1.7. The iPhone X is slightly different. It has a dual camera system. It has a regular wide-angle 12 megapixel camera with an aperture of f1.8 and a 12 megapixel telephoto camera with an aperture of f2.4. The primary reason the telephoto lens exists is to give you two things: 2x optical zoom and special effects for portrait shots, including the popular bokeh effect. And by the way, all cameras on both phones are optically stabilized. So which camera is better? It's hard to say. They both take razor-sharp photos in daytime and have great low-light performance, meaning you can take photos at nighttime and actually get a clean photo without too much noise. If you're an average consumer, which most people are, you will be satisfied with either one of these cameras. However, the iPhone X does have an advantage. It has a secondary camera which allows for 2x optical zoom and some really special effects for portrait shots if that is something you are into. And what about video recording? The iPhone X again has the advantage because it has the option to record 4K videos at 60 frames per second, or you can tone it down to 30 frames per second. Galaxy S8 can also record in 4K but only at 30 frames per second. Additionally, iPhone X is also capable of recording slow motion video at 1080p at 240 frames per second, which is quite amazing. Galaxy S8 can record at 240 frames per second as well, but only at 720p, a lower resolution. So certainly iPhone X outdoes the S8. Finally, S8 has an 8 megapixel front-facing camera, while the iPhone X has a 7 megapixel front-facing camera, great for useless selfies to overpopulate Instagram and of course video conferencing. So what is the story with the camera? Let me repeat, if you're an average consumer, and most people are, you will be satisfied with either one of these cameras because they take fantastic pictures. These are both world-class smartphone cameras. However, iPhone runs the advantage here due to its dual cameras and better video recording options. Again, whether or not an average consumer will use those is debatable. So let's move on to the battery. So I'll let you know that the iPhone X has a longer battery life after a full charge. It will give you a couple hours of extra life in comparison to the S8, but both phones are able to last a full day with a full charge with medium to heavy use. Both the iPhone X and the S8 offer wireless charging using the same Qi standard, which is fantastic. Now, S8 has fast wired charging out of the box with the included charging adapter. However, the iPhone X will require you to purchase the fast charging compatible wall adapter if you wish to utilize the fast charging option. But both phones do have fast wired charging option. So the iPhone X leads in overall battery life, but the S8 gives faster wired charging cable included with your purchase. Both phones have wireless charging. Let's call this one a draw. So let's talk about biometrics and security. In this category, the S8 leads in overall tech. It has 3 ways to unlock your smartphone: a fingerprint sensor, an iris scanner, and a basic facial recognition tool. The iPhone X only has 1 way to unlock your smartphone, which is the Face ID. Now, Face ID replaces the fingerprint sensor known as the Touch ID on the iPhone. It is essential to understand, however, that the Face ID on the iPhone X is far superior to the facial recognition tool found on the S8. Even Samsung does not recommend using the facial recognition tool on the S8 as a reliable security measure, so honestly, we could potentially discard that option on the S8. So what we have here is an iPhone X with a state-of-the-art Face ID system versus the S8 with a state-of-the-art iris recognition tool plus the proven fingerprint sensor. So as I said, the S8 does have more options on the table, so the win goes to the S8 in this category. Now let's talk about pricing, and then we will tie all of this in a conclusion. So the S8 Plus has an official price of $850 for the 64GB model, but I've seen it go on sale for as low as $700 and even lower, so it does fluctuate between the $700 and $850 in the United States. And the iPhone X starts at $1,000 for the 64GB model and $1,150 for the 256GB model. And finally, it's time for us to define the winner in this battle. Let's go. So it is clear that both smartphones are technological marvels. As a tech package, they both offer a lot of value. The S8 has a larger screen, a higher water resistance rating of IP68, still retains the headphone jack, and in my opinion has a better design, and it has more biometric security options to unlock your phone. On the flip side, iPhone X offers more power, which translates to better gaming. It has stereo speakers, and it has the advantage of the dual camera. They both have wireless charging, and as for the display, they both have top-notch displays. So it's kind of hard to pick a winner among so well-equipped smartphones. And of course, no doubt software will play a major role in deciding between the two. You either pick a solution that is open-ended system with lots of customization and built-in software features, or you pick a closed-ended system with minimum customizability but a truly solid app ecosystem which has its own unique appeal. But here is where the S8 pulls ahead. The S8 is much cheaper than the iPhone X, yet it is an equally high quality product and in some respects even better, such as we mentioned. So if you were someone trying to buy one of these, I could easily tell you to pick the S8 over the iPhone X just because of the price. And it is essential to understand that in this case, a lower price doesn't mean you're getting a lower quality product or missing any features. S8 is a marvelous product, and it really is an awesome deal at that price point compared to the slightly overpriced iPhone X. And of course, one more angle to look at: if you want to switch from Android to Apple, iPhone X is going to give you quite a ride. It's the best Apple has to offer, and it's a fully refreshed product. Or if you want to switch from Apple to Android, S8 is going to be a tech marvel that will fully satisfy your craving for an Android experience. So yeah, when the price is considered, the S8 wins hands down. But if you blur the price for a second, these are equally great smartphones with their own strengths. And that's all I can say on this matter. Make sure to let me know down below which smartphone you chose and why. Also, make sure to subscribe to Saki Tech and give this video a thumbs up. And if you do use Instagram or Twitter, follow me on both @SakiTech Online. Have a fantastic day.